valued viewers that have been with us this afternoon. And if this is your first time on Travelwise Talks series, welcome. Here I bring to you the travel industry events, interviews with our favorite suppliers, and announce any public advisories surrounding general travel and travels to the Philippines. I am your host, Mariel Cabin, and I am the COO and owner of Travelwise International. Um, for those that are new or joining us for the first time, we are a Filipino owned and operated travel agency that has been in business since 1989. Oops. I apologize for that. We save you time, keeping you informed, and helping you make travel experiences seamless with our dedicated team of travel advisors. We specialize in international destinations by land and cruise, but our most beloved destination we love to travel to is the beautiful island of the Philippines. With over 31 years of experience, we have helped more than 500,000 Filipinos go back and forth to the Philippines. And today on our show, we will hear and bring some clarity to the ongoing travel restrictions and help you plan for the future. Today's session I'm very excited for is been highly requested topic from our viewers and our valued passengers. And while right now we're right around the corner from the holidays, I'm sure many travelers are listening and would like to know if they can travel back, and if they can, what travel documents they'll need to prepare. So if you're watching and wherever you are, please drop in the comment box below. Let me know who's watching and who's with us today. I know we have some new viewers that joined us on our Eventbrite or some of our Filipino Facebook groups that we are part of. Please drop where you're from, where you're listening from, and if you had plans to travel for the holidays or even further out into 2021. Maybe for our special guests, that'll give them a hint on when they can expect an influx of applications to arrive to the consulate office. So please feel free to go ahead and leave where you're from, and maybe the next time you're thinking of traveling to the Philippines. While you are doing that, if you have seen any of our other shows, this will be the last live series in 2020. We have been posting ever since the summertime on our main Facebook page. However, I will still be on top of all the updates. Any public advisories that we put out will be put on our main Facebook page. But I really wanted to take this time, since the holidays and Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and the holidays, I wanted to make sure that everyone had ample time to be with their family and ensure that they aren't missing any news. But any breaking news, public advisors, I will still be posting on our main Facebook page. Any other updates, I would highly recommend all of our viewers to join our Travelwise Facebook group. It's called Balik Bayan Travelwise. So if you want to be a part of that, that's where we'll be posting all of our information on travel related events, notifications, and also if there's a promotion going on with any of the airlines, what you need to know to prepare to board, and any entry requirements that will be required of the travelers before you board their planes. Now, anyways, without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce our special guest today. Please also, if you, as another side note, invite your friends. This is really a great Facebook group that we're putting together just for our viewers on Facebook and our valued passengers, and where they like to get the latest information on what's going on and be the first to know without having to get a bunch of emails. Our guest speaker today, his name is I'm sorry about that. Our guest speaker today is Jose Victor Villariano Chan Gonzaga, and is a career member of the Philippine Foreign Service, holding the rank of Chief Mission 2. He is currently the Consul General of the Philippines in Washington, D.C. Formerly, he was the Minister for Economic Affairs of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C. From January 2015 to December 2019, and the Executive Director of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Office of Legal Affairs in Manila from April 2013 to 2015. He was chargé d'affaires ad interim at the Philippines Permanent Mission to the World Trade Organization in Geneva from May 2011 to July 2012, and he had previously served as the first secretary at the same mission from 2004 to 2010 before returning to Manila in early 2011. Before being assigned to the WTO mission in December 2004, he was Director for Social Development Matters at the Office of United Nations and International Organizations, the UNIO, of the Department of Foreign Affairs, and had earlier also served as a Director for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs, Director for Trade, Economic and Finance Matters, and concurrently Legal Officer in UNIO. Mr. Chan Gonzaga went to Columbia University as the Fulbright Scholar and the Bredsfelder International Law Fellow in 2003. He earned his master's degree in law, graduating with the Harlan Fiske Stone Scholar Award with a Certificate of Merit in International and Comparative Law from Columbia University Parker School of International and Comparative Law. Mr. Chan Gonzaga joined the Foreign Service in 1997 after earning his Juris Doctor degree from the Ateneo de Manila School of Law and was admitted to the Philippines Bar the following year. He earned his bachelor's degree from Ateneo de Manila in 1993 in interdisciplinary studies with a specialization in political science and socioanthropology. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud to bring to you today our guest speaker, Conjen Jose Victor Chan Gonzaga.
Hi, Marielle, and
Hello and good
good
afternoon,
afternoon.
and thank you for joining us
Thank you
today.
for having me.
Your professional bio is impressive. As I was reading it, I was like, "Wow, Colombia! Wow, he was here! Wow, he is."
A year after 9/11, but thank you for that kind introduction.
The pleasure is all mine, and I'm really so pleased to have you on our show today to really discuss a very timely topic that a lot of our passengers, a lot of our Facebook viewers, and I think my mom is always asking me when she can go back to the Philippines. So I'm so glad that you're on our show today to kind of bring some clarity to all of our viewers and everyone that's been waiting for Philippines to know what's going on.
Yep. No, thank you. We really thank you for this opportunity to provide some information, to provide some clarity. I hope that I hope that things become clearer after our conversation this afternoon, rather than more confusing for many of our passengers. But I will try my best.
Oh, we have someone. Darlene is congratulating. Go Ateneo.
Hi, Darlene. She's a good Facebook friend of the Office of the Consul General.
Oh, no wonder, no wonder. All right. Well, I mean, the comments are pouring in. We had some people already from California, here in Washington D.C. I think someone's from Virginia, and we also have Philippines on the screen. So hello and welcome. I'm glad to have you all with us this afternoon or early morning
Early morning in Manila.
Well, let's just jump right into it. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are waiting to hear. I mean, what is the current? Can you give us some clarity on what the current restrictions are? Well, for me, hello.
Marielle, yeah, I lost you there for a while.
Oh, I apologize for that.
No worries.
Well, I guess the first question I really wanted to pose to you, just to kind of bring some clarity to everyone, is what is the current travel restrictions for foreign passport holders?
Mhm. Okay. Well, essentially, unfortunately, actually, or regrettably, it's the restriction is very simple. All foreign passport holders are not allowed to enter the Philippines. I think that's a fundamental basic bottom line, that all foreign passport holders are not allowed to enter the Philippines. So the question, I guess, would be, well, logically, therefore, Philippine passport holders can go home anytime. So the question now is, are there any exceptions to the general rule that foreign passport holders are not allowed to enter the Philippines? And if I can just put a footnote here, when I say foreign passport holders, that would include former Filipinos who have not reacquired their Philippine citizenship. Now, I also just want to emphasize that this is a general restriction. This is not only a restriction for Americans or for Europeans. This is across the board. And secondly, and this is something very important to emphasize, this is temporary.
Yeah.
This is temporary, and this is COVID-19 pandemic related. And it's a temporary restriction put in place by the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases. So the next question is, who are exempted? And
Yeah.
essentially, there are two basic categories of exempted folks from this general restriction. One would be those who are dual citizens.
Mhm.
Now, actually, you can argue that they are really not an exception because they are considered Filipinos, right? So
That's
that is correct. If you are a dual citizen with a Philippine passport, then yes, you're basically in the not covered by the restriction. But
mhm.
I still emphasize that this is an exception because a lot of our kababayans do not have Philippine passports, even if they are dual citizens, even if they have reacquired. And
Yep.
this includes most of those who reacquired only recently because of the travel restriction that was put in place. So
Mhm.
it is the exception in the sense that even if you travel into the Philippines with a Philippine passport, you are still able to enter with a US passport, I'm sorry, you would still be able to enter if you are able to present the original copy of your dual citizenship identification certificate. The most basic way of determining what we're talking about, it's the certificate that has your signature, your photograph, and your thumbprints.
Mhm.
So that's what you need to present together with your US passport. Now, what is important to underscore, however, is that once you are able to enter the Philippines, it is strongly recommended that you apply for a Philippine passport in the Philippines. And that is easy to do because one, there are more appointment slots available in the Philippines. There are more offices because there are DFA offices in the malls, in the provinces, in the regions, and
Yeah.
and you get your passports quicker. If you apply in a Philippine consulate abroad, you will get it after 4 to 6 weeks. But in the Philippines, you get it relatively quicker as compared to having it shipped overseas. So that's the first exception: the dual citizens who do not have Philippine passports. Otherwise, there's no problem. The other exception are those who are entitled to visas. And
Mhm.
who are those entitled to visas? There are quite a number of new categories that have been introduced by the IATF, such as the investors, visa holders under certain categories. I don't think that's quite relevant for your listeners and viewers this afternoon. So I'll just emphasize on a couple of categories. One is the what we call the family reunification exception.
Yeah.
These are those foreign nationals or foreign passport holders who are married to a Philippine national or
Mhm.
who are minor children of a Philippine national or the parent of a minor Filipino national. And but what is important to remember is that a visa will be required even if you are considered to be part of the exception. So we can issue you a visa. You can get in touch with your nearest Philippine consulate or with the embassy here in BC, and there are just going to be certain documentary requirements that you will have to submit. And the most basic of that would be the proof of filiation. So therefore, if you are claiming to be the spouse of a Filipino national, you need to present the Philippine Statistics Authority copy of your marriage certificate or of your report of marriage if the marriage was celebrated or executed abroad in an overseas territory. So for as long as you satisfy those criterion, you're able to provide the necessary documents, then you will be entitled to a visa that will allow you to enter the Philippines. But what is also important to remember is that this is a family reunification exception.
Yeah.
Therefore, the Filipino spouse, the Filipino parent, or the Filipino minor child will have to be traveling back with you, or at the very least will have to be in the Philippines already. So it's not possible for you to travel alone and leave the Filipino spouse or the Filipino child behind abroad here in the United States, for example, because that would run counter with the basic principle of
Mhm.
family reunification. And the other category of visa, Marielle, is what we call the humanitarian exception visa.
Mhm.
This is an exception that is very strictly considered and reviewed, and it requires approval from Manila. So, unlike the family reunification visa, which the consulate or the embassy can issue on the basis of documents that are provided to us, the humanitarian visa exception will require prior or previous authority or approval from the authorities in Manila. So again, if you want that particular kind of visa, you need to get in touch with the nearest consulate or the embassy here in DC. But that by the nature of a humanitarian visa, you will have to provide evidence or an explanation of the extraordinary, emergency, urgent need for you to go home to the Philippines. And just examples of this without guarantee of any approval would be death in a family, you need to take care of a loved one, or if there are financial affairs of a deceased family member that you need to attend to, then those are the ones that can trigger a request for humanitarian visa exception. But as I said, and I want to emphasize this, there is no guarantee of approval, and it
Yeah.
takes a little bit of time for authorities in Manila to review and to consider those applications. So I think in a snapshot, those are that's the basic restriction. Those are the two main exceptions, and I'm happy to provide any clarification or any answer to a question that you might have or your viewers.
So I want to take a step back. So if
Sure.
for the long-term visas that are for either the spouse of a Philippine national, a minor child of a Philippine national, or a parent of a Philippine national minor child, about how long would the processing time take for just a normal long-term visa application?
Okay, I'm not sure whether you're apply when you say long-term visa, you're referring to the 13A visa that is issued to spouses of Filipino nationals.
Mhm.
Those take a little bit of time, and those actually have a lot more of requirements, and it's a little bit more expensive also to apply for it abroad. And but I think the important thing to underscore also is that there are quite some requirements there, like a medical exam, etc., etc. So what we would really recommend would be to just get the so-called 9A short-term visitor entry visa.
Nice.
That you only need to present your marriage certificate. You need to present like a travel reservation. It doesn't need to be a ticket yet.
Yeah.
We just need a reservation showing an itinerary with your name on it. So just a quotation or a reservation from Travelwise, for example, would be sufficient. And then a few other documents like photos and latest bank statement, etc. And so and then you have the choice of getting a 3-month visa, is 6 months, and then 1 year. And then obviously there are financial costing differences among those three categories. But what is important is just to be able to go and be reunited with your loved ones, and then process any, if you plan to stay longer, process an extension with the Bureau of Immigration directly in the Philippines. So I think that would be much quicker rather than to go through the process of getting the long-term 13A visa.
Oh, so your suggestion is to go with the 9A
Yes.
short-term visa for anyone that is applying.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is what many people are doing. And right now, we are still within our published 7 to 10 working days processing time. And if you're lucky that your application comes in during a week that there's a low volume of applications, then you'll be on the lower end of the range. But otherwise, you'll be in the upper end. So again, we emphasize that please do not make any final travel arrangements until you have some clarity on when you are getting your visa.
Good point. Good point. And then for the humanity, we do get this question a lot. If there is a medical emergency and if there is a death in the family, so those would be the only, I guess, situations where applicants can apply for it. No guarantee
Mhm.
if they can make it, but would you say to our viewers that do have or that are facing, unforeseeable events in the family that they should, would you still say that they should apply, even though it's not a guarantee that they'll be able to return back home or get the approval back from Manila?
Um, well, I would say that and this is good. It's very difficult to say because I know for Filipinos, for example, it's really important if a family member dies, if a parent, it's really very important to be there. Even if people say that, well, you can't do anything anymore, they passed on, but it's very important to be there. So I don't want to be discouraging, but I think what I just want to do is try to be as objective as possible for your viewers, and then because when you apply, there's going to be that emotional
Mhm.
expectation, anticipation, hope that you will get approved. And I just want to be objective and in saying I don't want to be insensitive, but I just want to be, upfront and honest with all of you, with all of your viewers, that it's really a long shot every time, because there's really a long and very serious and very tedious process of review, and sometimes you get frustrated getting all of these requests for more information, more documents, more supporting documentation to be provided, and then in the end being denied. But obviously, if you emotionally feel that you need to be there, you need to at least make that effort to get a visa, then there is no financial cost. I should emphasize this. There's no one who can facilitate for a fee these visas. So we've heard some reports or some rumors about it. So I want to emphasize that these humanitarian visas are free. You're free to make that application and apply directly with the consulate or with the embassy. And then we try our best to help you to try to make the argument that you be granted a humanitarian visa. And we've been successful in some cases, but in many of them also, unfortunately, we have not been able to help our clients.
I mean, I know this is a very hard question to answer, but could you maybe give us like a estimated amount of time where, like, the longest that you've seen, and
Yeah,
maybe the shortest that you've seen as far as getting a humanitarian visa
yeah,
accepted?
sure. Actually, I think generally the 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 range is between 2 to 4 weeks of of waiting for to hear back from Manila after you're able to submit. I'm not talking about the first, counting from the date you get in touch with the embassy, for example. So it's after you get all the documents out there to Manila, 2 to 4 weeks of waiting. But what really sometimes prolongs or lengthens the waiting period, Marielle, is when Manila starts asking for more documents. Then that really prolongs the waiting time. But otherwise, once all the documents are there, it's 2 to 4 weeks. You get a yes or a no answer from the authorities.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still, I mean, if you're going home to bury someone, for example,
Yeah.
it's almost an impractical option for you. That's why we always say that as much as possible, if you can do dual citizenship,
Yeah.
you go for dual citizenship.
No, great. Just so I can reiterate. So for the 9A long-term visa, roughly takes 7 to 10 business days
Yeah.
for processing, and then for the humanitarian, it can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks,
Yep.
roughly, right?
Okay.
And this is all based on if the documents are all
That's
completely
correct.
submitted. That would be like the best case scenario. So, I mean, I guess to all our viewers, the most important thing is to really look at all of the requirements before sending it into the
Yeah.
consulate to make sure that we can still, the processing time, 7 to 10 days for long term, and then also 2 to 4 weeks if there's a humanitarian request.
Yes. Yeah, if I can just take this opportunity to emphasize, and thanks for giving me that opening, to emphasize the importance of, please look at our website and read it very, very, very carefully. And if you have any doubts, any concerns, it's best to ask us in advance before submitting all the paperwork, and then your paperwork gets stuck in the process because of certain incomplete documentation. It's really important. And let me just also mention to your viewers that for the last 8 months, what we've been doing is really just reviewing and reviewing and reviewing and revising our website to make sure that we are as clear as possible. And we've always had to walk that balance between holding the attention span of those reading the website, and then being and not to for the requirements to be too overwhelming that it becomes ununderstandable already to many of our viewers. But I think that's really very important, because especially for dual citizenship right now, we are really overloaded already. And once your paper comes, the processor looks at it, and if there's a problem, then he'll need to find the time to get in touch with you to let you know that you need to do this, you need to submit this additional documentation, and that really prolongs the processing of your paper, and that affects the efficiency of the work in terms of processing the papers of everyone else. So
Mm.
I really beg and urge our kababayans to make sure that they read the website very carefully.
Now, I know that you're from the Washington, D.C. Embassy. Would you say that this processing time would be the same for, say, L.A., San Francisco, Chicago? Are they approximately running at the same processing time for these travel documents?
Yes, I think so, Marielle. But let me just say that for our colleagues, particularly in San Francisco and LA, I think the problem now would be for dual citizens or for all others that require appointments, for example. I
Mm.
think most of the appointments are already in 2021. So yeah, so it's really overwhelming, I think. As you know, California is like you're talking about like a million something there
Yeah.
in terms of kababayans. Yeah.
And I think another question I have, at least for dual citizens, is for the oath taking, do they have to show up in person for that?
Yes, and that's the problem also because they need to show up in person. There are discussions about trying to do virtual, but those discussions are still very preliminary. So yes, for example, at least speaking for Washington, where the numbers are more manageable as compared to California, for example, we're able to turn around the approval of the applications. As you might know, and our viewers will see in the website that in dual citizenship, you need to mail everything first. We need
Yeah.
to process it and pre-approve it, and then we tell you to make an appointment for your oath taking. So our processing, the turnaround of our processing seems to be still within the published rate. Again, for as long as all the papers are complete, they're still within the published range of transaction times. But then the problem now becomes the appointment slots for oath taking, because those are filling up fast. So right now, we are trying to devise something. We're trying. I wish I was at liberty at this point to announce it already, but we're not quite there yet. But we'll definitely make sure that you know about it and you can help us disseminate it. But we're trying to come up with with an initiative that will hopefully allow everyone who wishes to return home for Christmas
Yes.
and who have been pre-approved already to be able to take their oaths in time to go home.
Wow.
But
That
I'll
means
let you know
that
once
means you're working double
we
time
figure
for
that out.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I mean that definitely brings some clarity as far as um I mean, just as I mentioned, a lot of our passengers are really looking forward to spending the holidays home or just planning for the future on when they should put the application in. So it sounds like if they are traveling with a long-term visa, that shouldn't take too much time because long-term visas, if I'm not mistaken, you don't have to go in person. It is a mail-in process.
Yes.
And then if the application is complete, it should take about 7 to 10 business days
Yes.
on a perfect on a
On a,
perfect
yes. But even on an imperfect environment, it should not take significantly longer than 10 working days
that
at
is
this
that.
time. At this time, yeah.
And is there I mean just for our own knowledge, I mean from the trends that you've seen as far as applications coming, is there a better time to apply or for any of these travel documents?
Well, not really, but I would say please, if you're complete already, and even if you're not planning to leave yet, just file it already,
Hmm.
and and just have it ready for whenever you would need it. And that's why also I'm encouraging those who are able to apply for passports.
Yeah.
Like before, people wait up to like 6 months, 3 months. Right now, try to, if you're able to get the appointment, do it as early as possible, because anyway the passport validity period now is 10 years as compared to the 5 years before. So that you're just ready for any contingencies, particularly now where there are a lot of travel restrictions. I think it's best to have all of your travel documents as updated as possible. And just to add to your point on mailing in and in person, I want to emphasize that the only transactions that requires in person and getting an appointment to go to the embassy is to renew your passport. and to take your oath once you are pre-approved for dual citizenship. All other consular transactions basically via mailing.
That's that, I think that is the question that we've been getting all along. When do they have to apply? What's going on? And the processing time to determine whether or not they can make it in time for the travel dates that they're thinking of traveling
Yeah.
to. No, I guess the questions are definitely pouring in as far as and bringing some clarity. But I have a kind of an off-topic question. Is for the um, earlier this month, they did announce the Pfizer vaccine. And I know we talked a lot already about the restrictions now and what the requirements for travelers to come into the Philippines now with the Pfizer vaccine. Public knowledge now. Would there be any inside knowledge that you may be able to tell us that travel restrictions would be lifted now that the vaccine is out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been asking that myself as well, Riel, because obviously we in the embassy are also very interested in finding out the answer to that question, because just to give some context and some texture to our discussions, and to how hopefully our kababayans appreciate the work that we do here in the consulate. The embassy, and I think for that matter all the foreign service, the Philippine posts in the United States, have not really been designed to handle a situation like this.
Mhm.
Why do I say that? Because one, many of our Filipino American kababayans were not really interested in dual citizenship, because of the balikbayan privilege, because
Yep.
as US passport holders, they can always go back, stay for a year if they're
There was
former
never a
Filipinos.
need to get
So there
another.
was really no need for that. Obviously, of course, there are, we can discuss the pros and cons and the principle, the philosophy behind behind the dual citizenship law, which Secretary Locsin was a co-author of. But I think so that one, and then also visas. Visas had never really been a problem. So our main clients before were really U.S. government officials going to the Philippines for a foreign assignment at the embassy, or U.S. Peace Corps volunteers, or Fulbright scholars, etc., etc., who were staying there for quite some time. So, and then suddenly, so basically, therefore, our systems, our processes, and our personnel complement were not really designed to handle an influx of sudden, voluminous, and simultaneous applications for dual citizenship, visas, and we've seen a spike even in reports of birth, reports of marriage, because again, before, when a baby with a US passport can go into the Philippines, but now if it was a Filipino citizen at birth as well, they would need to report their birth and then get a Philippine passport or a travel document. So that's the kind of constraints we're working at. So now going back to your question, therefore, as which I said, we're as interested as everyone else. Obviously, I think it's a very positive development. The announcement of Pfizer, the announcement of Moderna, and the announcement of other developers of the COVID-19 vaccine. So I think that's really a positive development that brings us closer to hopefully the lifting of the temporary restrictions. But obviously, I think I should emphasize that our kababayans, both here in the US and in the Philippines, should really also heed all the public health advisories about physical distancing, wearing of masks, and
Absolutely.
just taking care of yourselves. So I think with all of that, with our efforts, and with the efforts of the vaccine developers, with the efforts of our governments, we're hoping to get to that level of comfort where the IATF, the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, will feel comfortable enough to lift the restrictions. I don't think they're going to. It's a situation of waiting for us to return to the normal times pre-COVID, because I think everyone is pretty much agreed that it's not going to happen, at least in the near future, or even in the medium term. But I think it's just really a matter of really flattening the curve definitively in the Philippines, and we're seeing positive signs of things going that way. For example, the Metro Manila's cases are now significantly going down as compared to like a couple of months ago. But really, we're hoping that this trend will continue, and that it brings the IATF to that level of comfort, to that positivity rate, to that hospitalization rate, to that death rate, where it might not be zero, but it's at a level that they would be comfortable already. And I think we see the signs already of openness and inclination to that. Obviously, the economic managers are pushing for a return to some sort of economic normalcy.
Yeah.
The Department of Tourism is working with the industry in reopening certain areas in the Philippines. Boracay has
Yep.
slowly reopened. Baguio has slowly reopened. So I think with the help of everyone and with the cooperation of everyone in keeping themselves, their families, and their communities safe, we're gonna get to that point where it would be safe enough to lift those restrictions. When I was listening to your introductory comments about this being the last session, I was actually hoping that I'd be your first guest in January to announce that we are reopening or lifting the restrictions. So, but definitely, I think if not your first guest, soon thereafter, we should. I think let's just be positive and optimistic enough to believe that we're gonna get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and yeah, and I think you're hinting me, so I will send you a calendar invite for January 1st to be on our show, to be my first guest. Hoping that there is an update but yeah, like I completely agree. A lot, just like my mom, as I've been saying, has been bugging me and telling me when can I go to Philippines because she is a foreign passport holder, and I think everyone that's with us today is really on here because they miss their family, they miss the Philippines, and they really do want to go back. But really, as you're saying, the most important thing that the Philippines, the government, the IETF is really trying to stress is that it is for the safety of everyone. And they're opening up in a safe manner that they feel comfortable with and that is controllable for them and for the inbound travelers to come into the Philippines into. Well, I mean, as going into 2021, is there any advice for the travelers that you would recommend? I know you said get your travel documents and applications in first
Yeah.
before purchasing a ticket. So
Mhm.
I'll be here on standby, everyone that is watching. I will make a reservation, but you have to go through the embassy first.
Mhm.
But is there any other advice that you can tell our viewers on how to plan for their trips in 2021?
Well, I think the other thing also, I think in terms of planning, just be sure to monitor the websites of the different consulates in the United States. As you had mentioned earlier on, we're trying to make it as updated as possible, and and um, and as soon as something breaks, it will be on our websites, particularly if it's like lifting of restrictions, whether it's a general lifting or the lifting of a certain category of restrictions, we're going to do that. But, and then I guess I think, Marielle, one other thing is, I would say, is keep in touch with us. I know that people complain sometimes that it's very difficult to call the embassy or the consulates, but I would really suggest that you use email. I know Filipinos. I know Filipinos want that warm voice, that warm person to talk to. But the let me just share that it's just very difficult to field all the phone calls, because when someone calls a colleague of mine, for example, it's not like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. They stay on the phone 15, 20 minutes with all kinds of questions. And I would hasten to add that many of these questions are actually answerable by reading our website carefully. But that's beside the point. It takes 15 to 20 minutes. In that time, there's like 10, 15 people trying to get in touch as well. And it's very difficult to be able to accommodate everyone who's trying to speak to someone. So I think the email, it really works best because we can answer that at any time. That can be answered 24/7, and also for accountability. Sometimes this issue of phone call is a he said she said situation, and sometimes they're calling the wrong number. They just Google something on the internet, and then they're calling the wrong number, and then unfairly we get criticized for not picking up the phones. I should just share, and I've said this when we had our town hall meeting in January. If there is one commitment that I make as Consul General together with my team here in Washington, D.C., it is every phone call answered, every email answered, or every phone call returned if we're talking to someone else on the phone when you call us. That is a commitment of accessibility that I've tried to really pursue with my team over the last few months, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's really best to email us because, again, there can be accountability there because you can always send me a screenshot of an email that was sent like 2 weeks ago without any response. And finally, for people who look at the Philippine Embassy website, on the upper right hand of the front page itself, there is a directory and all the phone numbers, all the email addresses of the various consular units are there. So don't use the general email address or other email addresses that you find on Google or on the internet. Use the official directory on our website so that you can be sure to get a response from the team. Yeah.
Well, that's a great mission. I'm clapping. Every call is answered. You know you were recorded.
Yes, I make sure that my team members adhere to that commitment of ours.
No, that's very moving for me, and I'm sure it's very satisfying to hear. I think everyone that's from California might start calling you to the Washington D.C.
Yeah, and Marielle also, if I may, this announcement might make me lose one more hour of sleep. But my office is very active on Facebook as well. I know Filipinos sometimes it's just like we don't do emails, we don't do phone calls, we just do Facebook. So we are on Facebook Messenger, and I personally manage that account. So if there's also any issues, concerns, valid complaints, you can also reach out to me. But please make sure that you're fair to my team because I can personally attest that they're working almost 24/7. They're really doing everything that they can for our kababayan. So I sometimes it is very frustrating when we get all of those unfair complaints and criticisms. But obviously it comes with our public service. But as long as you're fair, as long as it's valid, we'll definitely act on them.
No, that's great to hear. You know, um, I am just so proud to hear that your commitment to the Filipino Americans that are trying to return home and just how hard you guys are working. I mean, I know even for us handling our Facebook business page is a lot, especially with all the reissues and the flight cancellations. It's not easy when you go through mail, phone, email, and then Facebook. There's so many different ways to get in contact, but that is our service. That is our commitment to our viewers, to our passengers, and to the people that we serve. So I'm glad that is something that we can both share in. I'm going to go ahead and transition to the questions. There are a few questions here that some people pose, and I just want to make sure that we got to them. The first one is from Raphael. He is asking, he has a ticket for November 5th,
2021.
Korean Air. My spouse will need to submit to the dual citizenship soon. Her spouse, will I need a visa as a naturalized citizen? Answer.
Yes.
Yes, you will. I'm going to keep going down and see if there's any other questions that we have not answered. This one is from Marie. How soon will they issue a visa? So long-term visa, we again said, if it's completely, it is going to take 7 to 10 business days for a long-term visa. Now,
Marianne, sorry. Can I also just say here that one variable that we cannot control is the USPS. Since it is mailed in and it is mailed out back to them, we're having problems with the USPS. I don't know whether it's because of the volume also for the elections, but there's been significant delays and it's been very frustrating for us as well. And so I just wanted to flag that also to our listeners to take that into consideration also, that just don't count the 7 to 10 working days that we're going to be processing, because you'll have to count the time the mail gets to us and the time your passport gets back to you through either through the mailing system or through the courier system. As we all know, a lot of things are being moved through the mail and even through FedEx and UPS right now. So that also should be a consideration.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. You brought up the good point about the election, because there is a a lot of conversations about elections and the mail being backed up. So I'm glad you brought up a good point for anyone that had their application sent in before election day,
Yeah.
or maybe even a few days after the election,
Yep.
as they did the recount.
Yeah, because we're still getting mail that are postmarked November 3 or November 2.
Wow, I mean, that's definitely good to know about. So
Yeah.
at least for anyone that's planning now that it's about mid November, they can start planning that maybe mid December, mid give it a little bit of cushion time.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to jump over to Edward's question. He's asking about, how about investors visas or business visas? That is something that. How about for anyone that has a business in the Philippines? What kind of travel documents would they need? Any exceptions?
Yes, there are investors visas, but I would suggest that they look at our website. It's all there, the list of investors and business visas that have been granted exceptions. However, to Edward, hi Edward, it's been a long time since we've spoken. But anyway, Marielle and Edward, you need to make sure that the traveler already has an existing visa. So you look at the list on our website as to which investors and which business visas have been granted exceptions. So, but even if you fall under that one, you need to have an existing visa already, because
Mm-hmm.
no new visas are being issued. So if you don't have one and you want to get an investor's visa or a business visa, then it would not be possible at this time. It has to be existing.
Good point. Good point. It has to be existing. All right. I'm going to jump over to Maria's question. If a dual citizen has an accident in the Philippines, can the U.S. repatriate the dual citizen?
Um, I think that's really more of a question for the U.S. government.
I think so
So they
too.
need to get in touch with, there is what we call the American Citizens Services Unit in the U.S. Embassy in Manila. They need to get in touch with that unit, American Citizens Services Unit. It's based in the U.S. Embassy in Manila. I think that's the unit that helps all American citizens in trouble or in need of assistance.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Maria, for your question. This one comes from Marie. I think we answered this one. Is there a way to expedite a family members visa application? I think that one was just look for any expedited visa processing. Your advice was just to go onto the embassy site, look at all the requirements, and completely fill out
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
form.
but for Marie's question, the husband definitely, from at least her basic narration, that the husband definitely has no problem, because Marie continues to be a Philippine passport holder. He just needs to present their PSA marriage certificate. But the daughter, the question now would be, is she a minor? Because if she is already of age, then she is not going to be entitled to the family reunification visa.
She is a minor. I do know Marie, and
Okay,
she's a minor.
then just the birth certificate would be okay.
Wonderful. All right. Um, from Pog Ako, accepting a property
Yeah.
during turning over of a condominium in Manila are considered as investor? No.
Uh, no, unfortunately, we have had cases like that before. They will have to file for a humanitarian exemption visa, and I'm not sure now off the top of my head whether those had been granted or not. But if he can delay it, or if he can do a power of attorney for someone, then just do it that way. But otherwise, one option would be to file for a humanitarian visa exemption. But again, no guarantees.
All right. Jen wants to know, she's a former Philippine national and a daughter of a U.S. citizen now. Does she still need a Philippine visa upon entering the Philippines?
She's a former Filipino national, yes.
Mhm.
Daughter is a U.S. citizen, yes.
Yeah,
If they are qualified in the first.
and I was reading also that the Balikbayan, just so everyone is also know, the Balikbayan program at the moment is suspended temporarily.
Yes.
Temporarily. So I think that might be also what she may be concerned of. Um, Next question comes from the visa application requirements to be in person. No,
No.
no, that's a good one. That's when we were able to answer. Any other questions? Where can we get the 9A visa? I think we put it already on the embassy website. So for Jen, I'm displaying now the Philippine Embassy link just so that you can see where you can get the 9A visa form. How long does dual citizenship processing take?
That's a that's a good question. That's very difficult to answer. Okay. Well, as I said, we're trying to do it. If your papers are complete, and I cannot overemphasize this, if your papers are complete, 7 to 10 working days. But I have to admit that, and we've already made that announcement that we're already either always at the farthest end, or we're going over. We're really sorry for that, but my processing team is doing as everything humanly possible that they can. So it's very difficult to provide a definitive answer. But even if you get pre-approved, as I was telling Mariel earlier, the issue of appointments for oath taking is an altogether different matter. So as I said, just if your papers are complete, put them in now so that at least they can be pre-approved at one way or the other, and hopefully you'd still be able to make it to that initiative we're planning to get to get everyone processed for Christmas.
All right. Uh, Edward has another question as far as the requirements for investor visas or business visas.
Well, as I said, we are not issuing those
Yeah.
categories right now, so they have to be existing.
All right. We'll jump forward. How much time does it get to? How much time we answer that one already? Has the bill like buy-in program been it has been discontinued? This one is from Monet.
Mhm.
Is a 14-day quarantine still required upon arrival into Manila?
Well, technically, yes. You don't need to stay though in the hotel. So once you arrive in Manila, you do your PCR testing at the airport. You're supposed to have booked a quarantine hotel for a day or two to wait for your PCR test results. So once you get negative, then you're allowed to go home and complete your 14-day self isolation at home. If I can just add here, Marielle, also for those who are going home, to make sure also that you check the requirements not only for getting into Manila but for getting into your respective provinces. So if, for example, you're travel after your isolation in Manila, you're planning to travel to Ilocos, to Davao, to Cagayan de Oro, make sure that you are familiar or that you know with what are the requirements in order to enter or to return to these cities, to these provinces. Because we've heard certain kababayans having problems of getting stuck in Manila because then they have not made the necessary arrangements for entry into their respective home provinces. So it's very important to check on that as well.
No, that's a good. There's definitely going to be a learning curve for anyone traveling to the Philippines now, whether it's just getting out of the U.S., boarding the plane, requirements for the transiting country, getting into Manila, and then I'm glad you actually inserted it in there that there's also additional requirements to going back to your provinces, and that that should be part of the preparation before they even get onto the plane, because
Yeah.
this would all have to be prepared ahead of time. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that was actually our last question that we haven't answered yet. I think we went through a lot of content, and I think a lot of people are very happy and are very thankful for the information and clarity that we were able to bring to everyone. I know what I'm going to say to my mom now. But yeah, no, I really appreciate this as far as processing of the long-term visa, or the 9A short-term visa, the humanitarian visa, as well as the dual citizenship. I think that's, as far as processing time, I think that puts a framework of when
Mhm.
people can actually start thinking of when to travel, when they can actually, if they can make it in time for the holidays,
Holidays.
and to also add a little bit of cushion for postage and just processing
Mhm.
time in general if there's anything wrong or missing with the application process. So, Conjen, JV, I truly appreciate your time that you've spent with me and for all of our viewers and valued passengers that are watching us today. Really great content, a lot of clarity, and just really appreciate your time that you've taken to be with us today.
Yeah, no, thank you also, Marielle, and thank you to your listeners for the question. But thank you for giving us the opportunity. Whenever Daryl asks whether I want to do something like this, I'm always happy to do it because it really is an opportunity for us to get the word out there also. Because sometimes that's where the confusion lies, just in the fact that people just don't know what the information is. But I think as we've seen, the rules are fairly clear. Some of them might not be too. Too fortunate for many, but it's really um, it's really for the health and safety of our kababayans in the Philippines, and it's really just to protect everyone who's back home.
No, absolutely, and you were recorded. You will be my first guest in January, or as soon as.
I wish, I hope, I sincerely hope that we'll have more good news that the next time I'm with you.
And I think now that you've said that the embassy that the DC is now accepting comments and messages on Facebook, I think you're going to be very busy this Thanksgiving break.
Yeah. No, but
But
we're always just happy to help our kababayans. Our hearts always go out to those who just sometimes really just needs to get home because a loved one is dying or has just recently passed away. And each time I tell you, we just hope that it was well within our power, within our authority to issue them visas. But we just don't want to compound their problems of being stuck in an airport somewhere with an airline refusing them onward carriage, or getting to Manila and being excluded by the Bureau of Immigration.
it's
So
really hard now, and I'm glad that the embassy, our agents, we're definitely very keen to listening and figuring out a way that they can get there to get to their loved one. I mean, Filipinos in general are very family oriented, so we
mhm.
can't help but feel if an auntie, an uncle,
Yep.
a husband, spouse, a child, it's in our nature, it's in our
Mhm.
tradition, it's in our culture to
Yeah.
to to we're emotional,
Yeah.
emotional country.
Yep, definitely. We find that out every day with the phone calls and with the messages we get. But as I always say, Marielle, let just work with us. Um,
Mhm.
another another commitment that I've also made and I've made my team make as well to our clients is that we're not just gonna tell you no. We're just not gonna tell you it cannot be done. We're going to try to explain it to you. We're going to try to solve it with you. In the end, we might not be able to solve it. We might not be able to let you go home. But I want them to know that but I want them to go away knowing and believing that we did everything we could
Absolutely.
working with them to try to make it happen. It's just unfortunate that we can't make it happen on the basis of the rules that are in place. But definitely we try to go that proverbial extra mile for each and every client that comes to us. And if we're not able to bring you home, it's because it's already beyond our authority to do so.
Absolutely. So thank you, Conjen JB, for again spending your time with us. I will be in touch with you in January or when
Okay.
the good news happens that the travel restrictions have lifted.
Yes.
But until then, thank you, and I
Okay.
wish you
Thank
a
you.
happy holidays as well.
Yep. Thanks to everyone, and happy Thanksgiving, and of course advance Merry Christmas.
All right, everyone. I hope you truly enjoyed that last interview session that we had with the Consulate General of the Philippine Embassy here in Washington, D.C. A lot of great content, a lot of clarity, especially for me with the processing times of the travel documents. I hope to all of our viewers that have been watching, they have some idea of when they can start traveling back to the Philippines and when to submit their applications. But just as I mentioned earlier, this will be our last Facebook Live series for 2020. Just wanted to give everyone ample time to spend with their family without having to feel like they're missing any of the information or interviews that we have been posting every single week. However, if there are any public advisories, I will still be posting them on our main Facebook page as far as travels to the Philippines. And for all of our viewers, especially the ones that are looking to go back to the Philippines, we have a Filipino Facebook group. It's called Balikbayan Travelwise. On that Facebook group, it's a truly beneficial Facebook group where we post all the latest updates, current events, promotions with the airlines, and just any information that you need to know before you travel to the Philippines. As we mentioned, and as Conjen mentioned, there is a lot of information that you'll need to prepare. And in this Facebook group, we're posting all the information that you need to know before you set foot and make your travel arrangements to the Philippines. Again, it's called Balikbayan Travelwise. It's on our Facebook page, and if you can join, it'll be really beneficial. And this is the first place that we inform all of our passengers about the promotions and latest updates. As far as our other series, the Tuesday cruise days for our cruise passengers will continue to be dropped every Tuesdays. And just wanted to give everyone an advance. If you do have any questions, if the embassy cannot be reached, even though Conjen said that every phone call is reached, we work very closely with the embassy, and we can also answer your questions, look at your travel documents, and help to make sure that your applications are complete. If you have any questions, our number is 301 248 8898, or you can email us at air@itravelwise.com. Our agents, again, we work very closely with the Department of Tourism and the embassy to make sure that all of our passengers can safely travel back to the Philippines or to any of the international destinations that we assist them with. Again, my name is Mariel Cabin, and I am with Travelwise International, wishing you a happy, safe Thanksgiving